Our variety of things to drink is limited by choice. We have coffee and lots of different teas for the children to be able to consume. Milk, of course, and water is our primary drink during the day, except for our morning coffee. On occasion, the children get chocolate milk, but we don't drink soda. Maybe 2, 3 times a year. In fact, we were talking about it the other day that Zebulon, who is now 11, soon to be 12 next month, he did not have his first soda pop until 2019, which would have placed him at 9 years old. I grew up on pop, way too much pop. In fact, it took me into my 30s to be able to break that drinking habit. So we often look for maybe something to break the monotony. And we do drink juice, but no, I mean it's not a daily drink. It's a treat. Juice is a treat. When apples are on, you make apple cider, or things like that. Sometimes we'll have homemade lemonade, but in the monotony is broken by things like this. Josiah wanted to make some birch twig tea. They could describe it as a watered down root beer flavor. I get more of a wintergreen sensation from it, but it's a fun little tea to make, and it only has to sit overnight before they can indulge in it.
Hi everybody, it's Leah with Family Heritage Living. I was just sitting here doing a little bit of reading, and I was thinking about the videos that we've started to make again. We have taken quite a bit of break, except from our devotionals, due to some situations we had last year, and we're picking back up on our videos. Did a couple cooking videos, but I wanted to do some like we used to do, which we referred to them as bits and bobs, just pieces here and there of our life throughout the day, homestead vlog, if you will. And it's been so long since I've done any of those that I feel like a fish out of water. No rhythm, no rhyme, but I'm just going to plunge forward and do what I think to do. I'm going to make videos today, or put a video together today that would interest me if I were watching it. Might not interest anybody else, but that's okay. I have this, you guys know that I lost my St. Bernard in the summer. I mean, I didn't physically lose him, but we had to put him down, and he was a snorer. But RJ's dog, Miss Sally, I think she has sleep apnea, honestly. She's a horrible snorer, so you'll hear her throughout this video, and even when I stop her, I'll wake her up, she'll fall back asleep, and she makes this noise again. Sally, wake up. Sally, wake up. Okay, so I've yelled at her to get her attention. She's looking at me. In just a second, she'll be back at it. We'll try to plunge forward with her on this. So anyways, we've got a snowstorm upon us today, like most of the country has experienced this past week. They checked the snow depth the other day, and we're on par for what we normally have, 130, 140 inches at this time of year, and we're usually we get around 300 and 330 inches per year. So we've got a ways to go, but we've got 10 inches coming in today, and we're going to be in that deep freeze that hits this week, and we're going to be down to -20. So it's all kind of a whirlwind. The guys are out working to get wood together, get the animals settled. And I was reading and wanted to share with you a little bit this article I was reading. This magazine that I'm reading from, or this text that I'm reading from, is almost 50 years old, and the person that wrote it was close to 80. So you're talking someone who was born pre-1900. So their memories, their way of life would have been really different than what we know today. And if you don't, I read a lot of old things, so, and we live in a certain way that, we experience a lot of this. We have a thought process, we have values, or we have things that guide us that kind of put us in the same essence. We hear about global warming, we hear about responsible consumerism. And for the most part, we've been following that for years. We buy in bulk instead of recycling where we don't have to. You know, we do what we can on our own, so we're not consuming things. But that was a way of life back then for many people. They had to recycle. It wasn't a manner of choosing to recycle, and we would call it in this day and age repurposing. So I just found this a really interesting article and thought you might enjoy it for those of you that are history buffs or that like things of the old. And I'm just going to kind of skip around on this. I won't read the entire thing, but she writes, recycling is a word I wouldn't have recognized when I was a kid in the early 1900s, yet its practice was part of my life pattern. Take paper, for instance. We didn't subscribe to a newspaper because we couldn't afford that luxury. But Papa brought old ones from the restaurant where he worked. Here are a few things that we managed to use it for. First, Papa read it religiously to translate the news later to his Slav friends who weren't as skilled in English. Then Mama labored over the funnies, learning to read aloud as part of her citizenship course. Then us four kids fought over the colored Saturday editions of the Cats and Jammer Kids, Mutt and Jeff, and Jigs. Our American Aunt Lizzie courageously rescued the remains and sewed them together, binding the backs with strips of old sheets so kids will have them to read in the winters when you can't go out. Too bad she didn't patent the idea, which was a 50-year-old forerunner of the present comic book for kids. What was left of the newspaper was stacked carefully in the basement for various household uses ranging from midwifery to beauty aids. Now, of course, when I hear midwifery, I'm thinking, for child delivery? You know, my mind just kind of has this big lapse with that one. The cleanest section made shelf paper for the food and dish pantry, with the bottoms cut out into intricate designs that folded over the shelves to look pretty. Sister Ann, who was taking dressmaking in high school, swiped whatever portion she could to make patterns. She would lay old dresses, skirts, aprons, or nightgowns on the kitchen table for whatever necessary demanded, cut the desired pattern in newspaper. Only then would Ma, or high school sewing teacher, trust her to cut into purchased fabric, or whatever usable parts were left of Ma or an adult auntie's discarded clothes. The younger children in the family fought over pages to make covers for textbooks we purchased at the parochial school at the beginning of the term, and sold to the next class if we were fortunate enough to get promoted before the books were worn and soiled. Ma's housekeeping methods demanded a huge supply of outdated newspapers. Vinegar and water provided the solution for window washing, and crumpled newspapers were used to dry and shine the panes. When I was in my early teens to late teens, there was a neighbor who used newspaper to do her windows. Now, at the time, I thought that incredibly odd because I'd never seen that. My mother was a paper towel devotee, and Windex and paper towels. That was the way it had to be. So that was my first introduction to the fine art of newspaper. And you know, as the years have gone by since then, we realized the value of newspaper. Actually, we're having a hard time right now, much like this article, of actually getting our hands on used newspapers. Used to, we could get them everywhere, and like this, we don't. Even if we could afford it, we wouldn't buy newspapers. It's kind of a thing of the past, but which has made it harder to get newspapers. So, but there is, I mean, the vinegar, which is what we use all the time for cleaning, vinegar in our water, the bar soap or the lye soap, and newspapers. You really don't need Mr. Clean. The writer goes on to say, when she swept the two precious wedding present carpets the house boasted, Ma would dunk newspaper in a pail of water, make small wads of damp paper, and scatter them around the room to eat the dust that the broom raised. This also saved her curtains from getting soiled. When a window broke and family finances didn't permit immediate repair, several thicknesses of newspapers were put over the hole, and a glue made of egg whites held it against the remaining glass until the pane could be replaced. In rainy weather, thick layers of newspaper at the front and back entry of the house absorbed some of the mud and moisture off children's shoes before they came into the house. And when a midwife was due to perform her duties, she arrived several days early and sewed inch-thick sheets of newspaper to be between the pillowcases and bake them for hours in the oven of the old wood stove until they were fit to be used in the delivery bed. Even the baby, after its arrival, was entitled to her share of yesterday's news, which was folded in pads under her diaper at bedtime to absorb any overflow. And in the winter, the older children and adults in the family laid layers of newspaper between the spring and mattress of their beds to keep the bed warmer, because the kitchen stove just couldn't heat all of the house. Mama was eternally warning, "Don't waste a scrap of paper. We need some to start the wood fire in the kitchen stove." In the summertime, the ends of newspapers were cut in a fringe and put on a line over the kitchen table, so that the cut ends would sway in the breeze from the open window and keep the flies off of the food. It isn't a wonder that Big Sister had to hide some pages of old papers in her bedroom closet to tear into strips and wind strands of her hair to her scalp when she wanted to make tight curls for a special party. Other kinds of paper were as precious and useful in other ways as the daily newspaper. Old Sears Montgomery Ward catalogs were treasured playthings in the winter. The picture models became paper dolls, and in a household where purchased toys were unknown, cutouts of the advertisement merchandise were contrived into ingenious playthings. Play store with unlimited merchandise cut out from the catalogs was a favorite winter pastime, with the pictures stored in shoeboxes for continuous use. The wallpaper store that gave sample books of new designs proved another treasure trove to make paper doll clothes and line orange crates with a variety of samples to create real dollhouse rooms. When a grocer put fruit or vegetables in a bag, it was carefully stored for the boarder's lunch. If they were careful, the mustard and ketchup stained bags would go back and forth to the shipyards for several weeks. And both the Sears and Ward catalog provided entertaining reading and other useful functions in the outhouse. When an inside toilet was added to the house, the bathroom boasted a cloth pocket-like container which was heaped with tissue squares which the grocer provided. He saved them for his favorite customers, and after taking them off of oranges, he sold. Shoeboxes and other cardboard provided useful inner soles for children's shoes when they wore out before there was enough money to go to the shoe repair or to buy new ones. In later years, when prosperity was around the corner, the rags bottle shack's man in his horse-drawn wagon carted away old newspapers and discards. After another war and the emergence of an affluent society, paper napkins, paper towels, disposable diapers, and other throwaways came to the scene. And now the cycle is complete with the return to ecology. I've known about it far more than half a century. Only in my childhood was it called economy. Can you connect to any of the frugalness that this author wrote about? Well, if you enjoyed that reading, let me know, because I have some other articles like this that you might find interesting. I really gear towards the ones about the kitchen or household chores from the turn of the century. That those are what gather my interest. Ron likes to hear about their farming techniques, just the general stuff that we do today, but trying to connect the pieces.
Living in a dry cabin creates certain challenges, and one of them is certainly keeping the dishes done up. I often look at these YouTube channels where the kitchen is immaculate, or the shows where the family's through eating and there's not a dish one to be seen. I, on the other hand, have a lot in life that is to always have a counter with some dirty dishes on them waiting to be washed. I wonder if I'm the only person in the free world that has this problem, or if there are others just like myself. We are getting so much snow the past couple of weeks. We're January, mid-January, and we still haven't caught up with what we normally have, but it kind of waited to all come at once. The kids are up here. They've made a snow fort. I'm going to go check it out. Big old logging truck right there. Ah! I like your fort. Wow.
And here's a hill. And Mama, this is flat. I think the daddy told us to fight. We're hiding from cars too. And Mama, this is flat. What?
I see that. That is a fabulous fort, guys.
Thank you. This is my favorite part. Flat. Mama, what's this?
One of the challenges of our cabin being so small and being the hub of our activity of our life is where to find a spot to dry the clothes, and especially the winter clothing. When the kids go outside to play, they come in after playing hard and they're soaked. So it usually has to hang in my kitchen till it's good and dry, because they'll be going back out in the evening as well.
Well, I guess that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. We pray that you all stay safe in this weather that's hitting the U.S. and Canada. And until next time, God bless.